بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وفقا في الدين يا رب العالمين وألحقنا بعبادك الصالحين. يقول الله جل وعلا: ألا إن نصر الله قريب. ألا إن نصر الله قريب. Verily, the victory, the help, the aid, the support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's side is very near. Here we stopped on the chapter of Asimatul Iman, on the significance, the excellence of Syria, Palestine. And a bit of Yemen as well comes inside the hadith of Akhirul Zaman. So here the first hadith we have عن خريم بن فاتك الأسدي رضي الله عنه موقوفا يقول أهل الشام صوت الله في الأرض ينتقم بهم ممن يشاء كيف يشاء وحرام على منافقيهم أن يظهروا على مؤمنيهم ولن يموتوا إلا هما أو غيظا أو حزنا. This companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is reported to have said that the people of Sham, the people of Syria and Palestine are Sawtullah, the whip of Allah on earth. The whip of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes. Yantaqimu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes through them whomsoever He wishes, however He wishes. Allahu Akbar. وَحَرَامٌ عَلَى مُنَافِقِيهِمْ, and it is haram upon the hypocrites to become victorious over the believers. وَلَنْ يَمُوتُوا, and they will not die except in absolute disaster, fear, hopelessness, misery. All these things are mentioned, and in anger, rage. Another dream of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. عن أبي الدرداء رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بين أنا نائم إذ رأيت عمود الكتاب احتمل من تحت رأسي فظننت أنه مذهوب به فأتبعته بصري فعمد به إلى الشام ألا وإن الإيمان حين تقع الفتن بالشام. الله أكبر. Abu Darda radiallahu anhu says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that whilst I was sleeping, I saw in my dream a column that had a book, column of book. It was carried from under my head. It was carried away from under my head. So I thought this was being taken away. Something good was being taken away. Therefore, I continued to follow it until I saw it being placed in Sham. Until I saw that column of goodness being placed in Sham. And then he says, Allah, behold, verily, indeed, to attract everyone's attention. Iman, true Iman is when the time of fitna, at the time of fitna, is in Sham. Is in Sham, Syria and Palestine. Next hadith we have عن عبد الله بن حوالة قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رأيت ليلة أسري بي عمودا أبيض كأنه لؤلؤة. Very similar dream. Very similar dream of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but here it's not a dream. Here it's in Layl Isra wal Mi'raj. On the night of Isra wal Mi'raj, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, I saw a white column, white pillar, as if it was shining like a pearl. It was shining like a pearl. The angels were carrying this huge pillar. قلت ما تحملوه? What are you carrying this pillar for? قالوا, they replied, the angels replied, Amud al-Islam. This is the stronghold of Islam, or the pillar of Islam, if you want to translate literally. Umirna an nada'ahu bisham. We were ordered and commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to place this in Ash-Sham. Allahu Akbar. Wa bayna ana na'imun. Here the narration continues. Whilst I was sleeping, رأيت عمود الكتاب اختلس من تحت وسادتي. Very similar to the previous one. فَظَنَنْتُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ تَخَلَّى عَنْ أَهْلِ الْأَرْضِ. I thought that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken away the blessings from all the people of the earth, because He knows the blessings come from Syria and Palestine. We spoke about the double barakah that Syria and Palestine has. فَأَتْبَعْتُهُ بَصَرِي. I continued to follow where these angels are taking this from under my pillow, this pillar. فَإِذَا هُوَ نُورٌ سَاطِعٌ. It was a shining light. It became like a shining light بَيْنَ يَدَيْ, in front of me, حَتَّى وُضِعَ بِالشَّامِ, until it was placed in front of me in Sham. Allahu Akbar. And this hadith is narrated in رواه الطبراني بإسناد قال الهيثمي رجاله ثقات. All the narrators are authentic. عن خالد بن معدان الكلاعي الشامي التابعي, which we said about it from the beginning of the book, that majority of the narrations, either if it's a prophetic hadith, then it is definitely sahih, and if it's a narration from the Sahaba, then it's a narration from the Sahaba. It cannot be attributed to Rasulullah, and he will only narrate that which is authentic from the beginning. عن خالد بن معدان الكلاعي الشامي التابعي. This narrator was a tabi'i, and he was a Shami tabi'i. Okay, he was from Syria, Palestine. أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال نزلت علي النبوة من 3 أماكن مكة ومدينة والشام فإذا أخرجت من إحداهن لم ترجع إليهن أبدا. الله أكبر. In another narration عن أبي أمامة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنزل القرآن في 3 أمكنة مكة ومدينة والشام. الله أكبر. Here in the first narration it mentions that Nubuwah, revelation of prophethood, came to me in 3 places: Makkah, Medina, and Sham, Syria, Palestine. Next narration he mentions, very similar narration from another companion. He says that the Quran was revealed in these 3 places. Quran was revealed in these 3 places. Allama ibn Kathir has some comments to make here. He says it is better to say Tabuk rather than Ash-Sham or Baytul Maqdis specifically, just to make it clear that there are different opinions on that regard. Next, we go on to Damascus being the fortress of the Muslims at the time, at the end of time. A time will come when there will be so much fitna, that people will be rallying towards Damascus. That's the only place that will be able to withhold all the fitna around it. Now let us go through the narration and we'll see how. عن أبي الدرداء رضي الله عنه. Abu Darda, he died in Damascus. We saw his graveyard there. عن أبي الدرداء رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن فسطاط المسلمين يوم الملحمة بالغوطة إلى جانب مدينة يقال لها دمشق. This is where we went and studied. Damascus is where we went and studied. من خير مدائن الشام. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم says, verily at the time of Malhama, Armageddon, when everything is full-blown war. If you want to consider it World War III, Allahu Alam, if that's the interpretation, okay? We don't know, we're not going to say anything definitive. But the point is, Rasulullah said this, and it is a Sahih Hadith in Hakim and many other books. Verily, the rallying of all the Muslims at the time of Armageddon will be at Ghuta. Ghuta is a city next to Madinati Dimashq, right next to the city of Damascus. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, at that time, Damascus will be the best of places, will be the best of cities. Literal translation. And then here in another, وَأَقَرَّهُ ذَهَبِي دِمَشْقْ خَيْرُ مَنَازِلِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ يَوْمَئِذٍ. Dimashq is the best of places of residence at that time of huge fitna. The next narration, I won't go through the Arabic is too long. Let's go through the events, inshallah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam here, he mentions 6 events that will happen closely before the hour. The first one, my death. Rasulullah, by his death, the first sign of the Day of Judgment occurs. Second, the conquest of Baytul Maqdis. The conquest of Baytul Maqdis happened in the hands of Umar radiallahu anhu. We all know this. Jerusalem. Number 3, 2 deaths, so 2 already gone. 2 deaths in my community that will disseminate like the curls of the backs of sheep. Meaning there will be extreme strife. Which when did that happen? Ali and Muawiyah and the Sahaba, that huge fight. Yeah. So those 3 already gone. Number 4, a strife within my community, and he emphasized is devastation. This 4th one, Allahu A'lam, if it has come or not. Okay? A strife within my community, and it will become a massive devastation for the whole ummah. Allahu alam if this has occurred or not. Perhaps it has, perhaps it may not have. Then the next one, fifth one, money will be abundant, meaning money will be abundant, but, understand this well, money will be abundant to such a point where a man will think of 100 dinars and he will scorn it. He will make it like as if it's nothing. What am I going to do with 100 dinar? Now it might be that due to the decline of that money, that we see a country when their money crashes completely, their money is worth nothing. So even if you have 1 million shillings or something, whatever, it's not worth anything. No? So this might occur, Allahu A'lam. This might be one interpretation. But anyway, the point is, money will be there, but money will not be utilized in the correct way. Therefore, money will be looked down upon. There will be no use for money. And the last one, a truce, this is the part there, subhanallah. Here very clearly it says, وَالسَّادِسَ هُدْنَةٌ. A truce will happen, a treaty, an agreement. تَكُونُ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَ بَنِي الْأَصْفَرِ. It will be between Muslimin and between Kuffar. Banul Asfar here refers to the yellow people. Literally, the yellow people, meaning the Westerners, Brits, Americans. Okay? Very clearly. فَيَسِيرُونَ إِلَيْكُمْ عَلَى ثَمَانِينَ غَايَةً. They will come to you under 80 different divisions of army. Under each division, there will be 12,000 banners. 12,000 soldiers, at least. قال الراية تحت كل راية 12,000. 12,000 under each of these 80,000. How many did they recruit? Over 500,000, isn't it? So do the maths yourself. This is probably the case. Allahu A'lam, if this is a sign. فسطاط المسلمين, at that time the fortress of the Muslims will be أرض يقال لها غوطة في مدينة يقال لها دمشق. That at that time the fortress of the Muslims and the Muslims will rally towards Damascus in a place called Ghuta, which is next to Damascus. This is in Musnad of Imam Ahmad, and the authenticity is according to Imam Muslim. It is also narrated in Bazzar and Tabarani as well with authentic chains. The next narration we have here, Allahu Akbar. This is a very amazing narration. The fortress of the Muslims will be in 3 different places at 3 different times. The fortress of Ma'qal of the Muslims at that time will be in Damascus will be one. We spoke about this. Yeah? Spoke about this once. Damascus. At the time when Dajjal comes out, the fortress of the Muslims will be in Baytul Maqdis. When Dajjal, Turi Saina, which is in the mountain which revelation came down upon Musa alayhi salam in Egypt. In Egypt, the Mount of Sinai. لَتَمْخُرَنَّ الرُّومِ الشَّامَ 40 صَبَاحًا. That the Romans will attack, fiercely attack, cut through Syria and Palestine for 40 mornings. 40 mornings. The Romans will cut through the Syrians and the people of Baytul Maqdis for 40 mornings. لا يمتنع منها إلا دمشق. None of them will be able to withstand that huge army and attack except for Damascus. وعمان, and Amman. Rasulullah mentioned Amman also. وعن أبي الأعيس عن عبد الرحمن بن سليمان قال كلها إلا دمشق. A king or a leader from the leaders outside will come and attack Syria, Palestine, and none of the cities will be able to torture, that massacre, except come yet. Both these narrations are mentioned in Abu Dawood in his Sunan. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا وقعت الملاحم خرج بعث من دمشق من الموالي هم أكرم العرب فرسا وَأَجْوَدُهُمْ سِلَاحًا يُؤَيِّدُهُمُ اللَّهُ بِهِمُ الدِّينَ. Allahu Akbar. Look at this narration. At the time when the malahim will take place, at the time when huge fights will occur, a group will come to Damascus from outside, min mawali. Here very clearly it says foreign. They are foreigners. They are foreigners that will come to Damascus. They don't speak Arabic fluently. It comes in the commentary. Damascus, and they will fight for Damascus at that time. Hum akramul Arab. They will be the best of the Arabs, meaning they will be Arabicized. They will become Arabs, as if the non-Arabs, these that came to defend Damascus, as if they became Arabs. They will be the best of the Arabs in cavalry, when fighting with horses and other equipment. وَأَجْوَدُهُمْ سِلَاحًا. They will have the best type of weaponry to defeat the enemy. يُؤَيِّدُهُمْ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will support them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will support them to uplift the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Next hadith we have, inshallah, we'll end off with this one. عن سهل بن سعد رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم لا يدركني زمان أو لا تدركوا زمانا لا يتبع فيه العليم ولا يستحى به من الحليم قلوبهم قلوب الأعاجم وألسنتهم ألسنة العرب. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, O Allah, do not make me come to a time, or do not make you all come to a time. He's talking to the Sahaba. Come to a time when the knowledgeable will not be followed. Those who have the knowledge of deen will not be followed anymore. People will be following ignorant people online. This is very common. وَلَا يُسْتَحَى مِنْ فِيهِ مِنَ الْحَلِيمِ. The forbearing will inspire no shame. Those who are bearing patience, they will inspire no shame. قُلُوبُهُمْ قُلُوبُ الْأَعَاجِمِ. Their hearts will be like the hearts of Bedouins, Jahil, ignorant people. Will be like the tongues of Arabs. Next hadith. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يأتين على الناس زمان قلوبهم قلوب العجم قلت وما قلوب العجم قال حب الدنيا. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم explains in this narration, you mentioned the hearts will be like the hearts of foreigners. What is this hearts of foreigners? Rasulullah explains, love of this dunya will be ingrained inside their hearts. Just like we see the Arab leaders, their love of the dunya and love of position and love of status and love of being in power and authority is ingrained inside their hearts, and they don't want to give that up for anything, no matter what's happening to the whole world. قال سنتهم سنة الأعراب. Their ways are the ways of the Bedouins, meaning ignorance, ways of ignorance. ما أتاهم من رزق جعلوه. Allahu Akbar. Whatever of rizq, sustenance that they get, they spend it in jihad, but they find it as a damage to themselves. They want to give it to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and zakat as a fine, as a penalty. This is what we're living in nowadays. If zakat is being given properly by everyone, then there will be no poverty and suffering. But unfortunately, we consider zakat to be a tax. Zakat is not a tax. Zakat is the haqq of the weak. Inshallah, we'll stop there. We'll continue from next week, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.
Allah